Welcome to Mystery of the Soul. I'm your co-host Leo, a psychic medium, a Reiki master, an EFT tapping practitioner, and a shaman. I'm joined by my good friend Julia, a doctor of physical therapy, yoga instructor, and Reiki master. Our podcast explores the depth of the soul, the spiritual, and the supernatural. Hi guys, welcome back to Mystery of the Soul. This is Leo, and I have Julia here as well. We have a special guest tonight, Connie, Warrior of Light. She's got a lot of experience, 35 plus years of experience. And we have a great interview set up, and we got a lot of information to cover. Julia, a couple words before we transition over to Connie.
Yes. So, as always, if you're enjoying the show, please like, share, or subscribe. And don't worry, Leo's just been a little under the weather, so there will be some more stuff coming on YouTube soon. But he's just taking a little bit of a break, which is much needed, I will say. And Connie, we're so excited to have you here. I'd love to turn it over to you and let you tell all of our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Julia. And thank you, Leo, for having me here. Love what you guys stand for. Love the energy of the whole thing. So I'm really all about the energy. That's something I've studied probably my entire life. My mom was an amazing intuitive healer, psychic. She did all of this stuff. She didn't like the mediumship too much. She would always say if spirits came to her, like, you picked the wrong girl, go to my daughter, because I don't want. She just... it's not that she didn't want, like, it was more because it's a different energy. And I'm sure, Leo, as you know, right? It's just, It's not the same as connecting with the angelic realm or with the guides. And it's just different. It's just a different energy. Yeah, go ahead, Leo, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, I agree with you.
Yeah. So, but I've always loved it. It's funny because even at a young age, for some reason, I've always understood death. Like, I understood that it's a process and it's not forever. And I never clearly understood why I understood it until now. And as you know, everything you do in life, no matter what job you do, it's always going to add to something and build, and whether it's your purpose eventually. There are no mistakes. Anything you do is not wasted. It's either a learning experience or it's something you're going to use at a later date. But I was raised with all of this so much that playing Psychic Candyland, we couldn't play regular Candyland as a kid. We played Psychic Candyland. And you literally could not move unless you got the color right. So, before she flipped over a card, you had to guess the color. And it wasn't fair because my mom could literally go through the whole deck and, like, I see 2 blueberries, it's 2 blues, or, like, I see a candy cane, and she could go through the whole deck. I think she got one wrong throughout the whole deck. So it took hours for us to play. And then, of course, I played with my kids, and they did it a couple times and they were done with it. They're like, I'm not doing this, Mom. This is way too much work. But looking back now, I'm so grateful because it helped to develop the senses, obviously, at a really young age and not even knowing why. She always was into self-help. She was a great artist. I just threw herself into spirituality. Jose Silva, I still have all of her cassette tapes back in the day from when she did all those programs. So this was my world, was energy. Yeah, I was a weird kid in school. I always joke at my events because I say, a kid would come up and we'd be talking and they're like, you're weird. You don't talk to dead people, you're weird. So anyway, I found out I was the weird kid in school. So, but I eventually just really didn't talk about it. My close friends knew about it. I didn't actually start out talking to loved ones on the other side. I didn't realize that that's what it was. I thought they were angels and guides. And then the more I developed it, the more I realized, these are loved ones on the other side too. So realizing the difference and then, of course, developing. And then moving on to different certifications, Reiki master teacher. That is my go-to. I love Reiki in terms of healing. So I guess if you look at it, I look at it as it's all under the umbrella of healing. I'm a Sagittarius, so I love to learn. I can't stop learning. So certifications are just like something to me that I absolutely love. So I took different forms of Reiki. Usui was the one that I seem to fall back on the most. Leo, I know you mentioned the Egyptian Reiki. So the Egyptian Reiki is very intense. I don't practice the Egyptian Reiki really, but I do use the guides, if you will. Like, so I kind of use it without using it. But if you want your life to change very, very fast, think of Moldavite on steroids, okay? Because it will literally, the things that no longer serve are going to drop away, but they're not. When it comes to the Egyptian Reiki, my experience has been that if there's something that doesn't fit, and, I guess when our soul tries to grow, it makes us uncomfortable and we struggle. And it's saying this, either this relationship isn't working anymore, or this job isn't working anymore, or this, whatever it is, or career. And we try to kind of stay in it, and we end up struggling because we feel like we should for some reason. And so, right, that's how you know when your soul's growing. I always say with my clients, and they're like, yeah, I'm really struggling. I feel like I've hit rock bottom. I'm like, yes, that means you're growing and you're just about ready to get a breakthrough. So there's no way up but up. So you're good. So along those lines, yeah.
Leo, I might know somebody who's going through that right now.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Just slightly, Leo, just a little
Just
bit.
Just a little bit.
Is it a friend?
Yeah, a friend. We have a friend.
Got it. Yep.
A couple of friends.
Yeah. We all know those people. I've been through that. I mean, I've known in my career when I was in corporate for the longest time. I was in management at an insurance company, and then we broke off and did our own. And when my soul was trying to grow, I wasn't listening. I mean, I wasn't in it at all anymore. And I kept trying to stay in it because I thought it was what I should do. And, when things like that, if we try to stay and we fight against the flow, and it's kind of like a riptide. And if there's a riptide and you try to fight against it, what do they say? That's the worst thing you can do. But if you just roll with that and you just let the riptide kind of take you where you're supposed to go, you come out of it and you're fine. At least that's, the theory behind it. I'm not going to say that all of them are like that, but, and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to really make something fit that just didn't work anymore. So that when the universe steps in, if you don't make those for yourself, the universe steps in. It's usually not very pretty. And in my experience, that's what it's been. So they'll just take care of it. Yes, Leo.
Just a question. What was the hardest part about transitioning from corporate to your spiritual practice, or, going on that journey to transitioning to do that type of work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, it was actually easy. The hard part
Okay.
was me not listening to my guidance. That was the hard part, because I experienced a lot of turbulence along the way, and it was necessary for my soul growth. I learned from it. Every experience, there's never a mistake. It's always, did you learn from it? And I definitely learned from my experiences. But for me, because I've always done this on the side, I used to teach spiritual growth. I used to teach classes. I mean, I still do teach classes, but I've been doing this for so long. Out of my, like 20 years ago, I was teaching out of my home and out of my basement. People who wanted to come for free because I was working in corporate, and we would just do it. I would help people develop their gifts, and we would share and all do that together. So because I was doing this on the side the whole time for well over 35 years, especially with the readings, for me, I was really excited. It was a little kind of scary, but as you know, being in this type of work, it's not like a typical job, really. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but I just trusted it. And that is kind of where my life has led me, where I've been in these experiences where I had to really trust and have faith. And I feel like that's what we're here to do, is to learn how to do that and move from fear to love. So we're going to be placed in all these experiences. What are you going to do with this? Are you going to go to fear, or are you just going to love and trust and know that it's going to work out, and I don't have to know all the answers? So for me, I would say it was probably a little easier because I was doing this all along. I knew I was ready at this point. I knew I wasn't going to go back to corporate with the energy and different things. It just wasn't for me. So this is where my heart was. This is where my soul was. This is where it's always been. It felt like coming home, if that makes sense. Like I get excited about it. I have entrepreneurial ADD, I feel like, because there's so many things I want to do and experience. And I feel like there's so much more that I don't even know, that I'm excited for it. So I hope that answers the question, but
Yeah, I think it does. Connie, why do you think people go into, like, you were in corporate? Like, why do you think people go in that direction and experience those things when they know maybe that's not quite truly what they're supposed to be doing? Do you think it's just part of the growth? Do you think that it's an experience that you have to fully appreciate and understand, like, what you're doing, or to, like, empower you more? Like, that's what I'm curious about, because I mean, we've talked to so many people, and it's kind of this, like, resounding, I was doing this and then I realized I had to get out of there. Like, I had to go and, like, do my thing. And a lot of people kind of knew, like, they had these abilities, or they had this intuition, they had this, there's something there prior to getting into, that line of work. Am I making sense?
yeah, no. And I say, oh,
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious, like, if you have any, like, thoughts about that. Because I think about that all the time. Like, I was very clear on what I wanted to do, and I love what I do, but I also know that there's something more there. Like, I'm meant to do more. Like, there's more to my mission than what I'm doing. If that
yeah,
makes sense. Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
So I'm going to try to make this as concise as possible, because there's so many facets to this. And I'm going to say all the above, because I feel with any experience, with any job, with any relationship, I think of it as webs or spider webs. Everything is connected, whether it's, and a lot of it has to do with the seeds that are planted within us. And those seeds are, whether we need to experience something, whether this might be karmic, this could be past life things, this could be a learning experience we need to go through. And at the time it resonated with something. So there's a frequency within yourself that said, okay, I want to be a physical therapist. So I want to help people. And that's a frequency that you had inside of you, or a seed that was planted. So that frequency went out there and attracted and magnetized the same, because I know you guys know a lot about energy, but those atoms go out, attach other atoms, form molecules, and pull these experiences back into us that match the frequency, that what we feel, or that what the seed is planted within us. So if there's something we need to experience along the way, those will be in alignment. And then what happens is, once that relationship, or once that purpose is done, it's really just done. And then it becomes a disparity in the frequency. So let's say a job, or even a relationship, you keep working on yourself, or one person works on themselves and the other person doesn't, and it stays here. And that frequency just ends up being so far between each other that it creates more of a resistance, and it repels. So it's this feeling of repelling. So even in relationships, the other person, it just becomes an irritant. So to me, that's when I know things are actually, I need to move, or I need to do something, because I can feel it in my vibration. It's just, things aren't a match anymore, or aren't in alignment. And yet I also needed to experience that at some level, whether it was management, learning how to lead people or manage people. When I first started my own business, I thought, hey, I can negotiate $1 million claim. I can sell my business. Well, when we branched off and formed our own, I quickly realized it is so different selling yourself than it is trying to settle a claim, because now it's personal. Now I have to put food on the table to be able to make the sale. And so I had it, and I was really shy, believe it or not. I mean, now I can speak in front of hundreds, and people do not believe it. The people who know me now. But before, when I first started out in corporate, if somebody came up to me, I literally would break out in hives, like higher up. Or if I had to speak in a group, I'm fair skinned. So I would literally, like, my face would turn red, and the more red it got, and I could feel it, the more hives I would get. And so I would wear turtlenecks in the summertime that had like sleeves cut off to hide, this. So when I had to start selling myself, I realized I had to take a sales course or a marketing course. So that course was able to end up getting me to this frequency of this level of not being afraid to speak in public anymore, and being able to you want to get the no's, because each no that you get is you're one closer to your yes. So I learned so much, and I was able to get out there. But had I not done management, had I not gone through the process of the stress of having to speak about my business and do cold calls and do all that, so I had to take the presentation course, which helped me present in front of other people. All of these things added up to where I am now, regardless if the experience was a positive and or negative one. And I feel they're all necessary for our growth. So if we take the good or the bad out of it, it's really just, these are the steps. And now I'm at a frequency of this, so I'm going to attract now the spiritual side of it. So I feel like I kind of went round and around, but it would, I guess, and if I had to summarize it, there's so many reasons why we do what we do and why we do this job or why we do this job. And I would say the key is, again, check with yourself, because your body is a true pendulum. It knows what's true. So if you're struggling, there's a reason. If things are chaotic, there's a reason. And sometimes we get addicted to that chaos. There's also another reason why things show up in our life or people. It's because the frequency that we have, and we don't realize it, that if somebody is struggling or there is chaos in their life, we actually get addicted to that. So if that's something that happened as with childhood or with relationships, and as we go, we don't realize that's our normal. So we may attract things that is our normal. So it's recognizing who's showing up in your life, why they're showing up in your life, and when they're showing up in your life, or the experience. You can kind of look and see, identify that pattern, because it's mirroring what your soul needs, whether it's needing to change a loop, whether it's needing to change a relationship, change jobs, to move on to something where now this is your next level, or this is where you need to be now. And then you're going to go through the whole process again. You're going to experience it. And, there's a purpose for it and a reason. And I always say there's a reason, season, and a purpose. And when it's done, it's just done. That's it. There's nothing more than that. So I hope I answered that in a roundabout way. Yes, Leo.
So a question. So it feels like, hearing about your journey so far, that it may have been a good, or maybe even an easy transition for you into life coaching.
Yes. Yes. So I would say I'm not as much as a life coach. I mean, I do that during my readings. But what I started doing is more the psychic mediumship and the healing. So the Reiki.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's really what I transitioned more. The soul coaching and the life coaching, I did get certified in life coaching too. And I feel that helps with the readings. And because in a reading is a healing session, really. It's somebody may need to hear from a loved one on the other side that may help them heal, or they're struggling with something during this session. Usually their loved ones will bring that up in the session, because they love to bring things up that you're thinking about, that you're struggling with, things that you're doing, because those are things that you can't find on Google, which I love when they bring that stuff up. So usually people will come to me with 10 questions or whatever, and spirit will actually bring up, their loved ones will bring up all these different things that they're thinking about. So then I can kind of in a session encompass all of this. I always send Reiki. I basically use almost all of my certifications in a session, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Except for the hypnotherapy. That one is a completely separate, because it takes a long time to do. But sending them Reiki and making them feel calm, and then connecting with loved ones on the other side, and maybe doing the coaching during the cards, the oracle cards. I love doing those at the end, because it's really cool, because they will really kind of summarize, or they will pull everything together of what we talked about in the session. So it's using all of those, but that's where I feel the psychic is the one that I've been using ever since I've been a kid, the psychic medium.
Mhm.
So that's what was easy for me to transition
Okay.
into. So from there, I did the Reiki. I got certified in a bunch of different Reikis,
Mhm.
Usui, Holy Fire, the Egyptian, the one that you chant. I haven't done that one in a long time. Karuna Reiki. So because of all of those, the Usui is the one, the Holy Fire, that I really do the most with, because going back to the Egyptian one, that one, like I said, I noticed when I was using that, I mean, it was literally, if it doesn't work in your life, it literally stops it. And it's not a calming one, where Reiki, I feel, is more gentle, right? And it kind of eases you into something more. It can, healing more subtle. The Egyptian Reiki, you want changes? I would do the Egyptian Reiki. That one's going to just, think of the gods and goddesses. They don't mess around. They're, you call in one, but regardless of the spiritual practice that you have, it's the same with the Hinduism. Look at Kali and Isis. They are very strong presence. They're not going to say, okay, well, you just want this part to change, we'll change that for you. No, they're going to come in and they are going to literally, your world will change. It's going to be for the better. It will end up being for the better. It's just, you have to be really ready for the changes, and most people really aren't. They want the subtle changes because their life is already chaotic.
Connie, who was one of your, like, somebody that you can think of that was like your biggest skeptic that became a believer? Like a story that you have about somebody who was like, nope, want nothing to do with it. Don't think, I think she's out of her mind, and came back around and was like, okay, I've completely bought into what you're saying and what you're doing.
I have a lot of those. And
I was going to say, yeah.
they're usually, it's called the drag to syndrome. Usually it's the wife drags the husband. They're the boyfriend.
It's with everything, right? It's always the wife dragging the husband. That's what we
It
do. It's
is.
like physical therapy. The wife drags the husband to have to go to PT. Like,
And it makes sense because women are more right brained, and right brained is where the creativeness side comes in, which is the psychic side. And men are more left brained, just not all of them. There's many who are balanced, like you, Leo, right? You're very balanced, but some are not like that. And most men are logic, right? They're left brained. So when the right side opens up with the females, that's, and they're normally generally intuitive and psychic because of the nurturing side, and that right, most of it though I feel is because of that right brained capacity for them to be able to have and utilize more. But more and more males are coming in, and same with females are now becoming more dominant and more also left brain. It's more balanced. They have the both, right? And same with men are, I want to say becoming more feminine, but how about this? Balancing the divinity, the femininity with the masculinity, and we're both kind of getting that balance of the two. But yeah, the drag twos. There was one that it was this one was in person. This one was just maybe 3 weeks ago, and she told me ahead of time. She's like, "I'm just going to be honest with you. He doesn't believe in this stuff." I said, "Okay, no problem." So I said, I'm not here to convince anyone, but let's see what just happens along the way. My job is to help guide. And if they want to believe, they can believe. And if not, it's not going to hurt my feelings. It's not personal. This is just, it is what it is. So I started bringing up, they were having issues. I want to be careful because, they were having issues with one of their children. I won't bring up any names, but with one of their children. And I actually brought up the name of the guy that they were what the whole situation was about. And I said, there's some family turmoil going on. And I said, and it's involving, I said, I feel like you have 2 daughters. And and the husband was just like this, like he's just sitting there. He didn't even know what to do. I said, but there's one struggling more than the other. So one is really struggling. And I brought up the name of the guy. I go, and because sometimes, and Leo probably is a psychic medium, sometimes we don't know why they're bringing it up. Our job is just to deliver the information and then kind of play spirit charades and connect the dots. So anyway, I could see his eyes getting bigger and bigger. And so she said, yes, that's the person. And basically what had happened is this, there was a rift in the family because of this, an entire rift. And then it ended up being in the marriage. now this is where now the coaching was able to come into play. So now we've identified this by spirit. And now I was actually able to help them to see both sides of what was going on with the family and the rift. And it's not my job to tell them what to do, but to provide some solutions or some compromises of what might be suitable for both, that they can both accept, to be able just to be happier, to be able to work through this. So that would be probably the one that just happened most recently. And I love seeing the transition and the eyes and then you'll get some who, and he did start crying during the session, but I'll have some that cry almost the entire session. And he's like, yep. And then afterwards, well, it might just be a coincidence or something like that. And I feel like sometimes what happens is too, people do truly want to believe. So they'll try to almost disprove it so they know it's true, if that makes sense. It's almost like this dichotomy in their thinking where, if I try to disprove it because they so want to believe that it is their loved one on the other side, or there is something bigger than us, or there are energies out there like angels and guides who can actually help us. And they, just because of their own belief system, how they were either raised or what somebody said, or maybe something scared them as a child. And if it scared them as a child, their higher self may block it off because something doesn't feel safe. So they've carried this, and a lot of religions will preach against this. And I was actually, to my first husband, when we were married, their family didn't believe in all this. And it was really difficult for me. Beautiful family, the absolutely beautiful family. I love them and I still love them till this day. But it was really difficult for me because this is who I am. And it's interesting because he actually reached out and not too long ago and said, I never understood what you do, but now I do. And because I do on Facebook, I do free readings once a month. So anyone who wants to join can, it's under Connie Warrior of Light. But that's where because he could see the healing that takes place. He can see that it's not evil. It's not, and there's no judgment in that. I understand that people are where they are in their journey. And it's not my job to control that. My job is just to be aware of my energy and not to take anything personal. And which is, trust me, this hasn't been my whole life. And I'm a work in progress, just like everybody else. But the more I understand that, nothing is personal. Nothing. Everybody's just here for their soul growth. So we're all learning from each other. And that's really all it is. It's not anyone's better or worse, or this happened. And I shouldn't say always, this hasn't always been the case. More and more now, so especially lately, this thing is showing up in my life, or this person is showing up in my life. If it irritates me, it's not because of the person. I have to look within myself. Why is this irritating me? There's a reason. So I want to get to the bottom of this. I don't want to come back here again. I want to learn all my life lessons now and not wait until I have to come back again. I want to do my life review now. And the only way to do my life review is to look back and take and see what my experiences that I have had in my life and see how it affected other people, my reaction to things, why I did them, and what the patterns are. And if there's still people showing up or experiences, why? There's still something, there's some seed in me that still needs, if that weed needs to be pulled out, I want to pull that weed out so I can put a new seed in that's going to nurture that new seed. But it's really becoming aware. And I think awareness is really probably the key word in everything. If we're aware of what our life lessons are, if we're aware of what's showing up in our life, if we're aware where we are in our spiritual evolution, we have more of an ability and more control within ourselves to shift our outer world then. And I think people don't realize that what is showing up in our outer world is because of something within us, not necessarily everything. Obviously, there's going to be global things. And yet it's how we react to these things. It's still part of me that still needs to learn to not fear and go to love and trust, whether it's something that I'm attracting or something that's global. But even global, it's being attracted because of all of us because of our energies and our consciousness and what needs to happen to be able for us to be able to learn and to grow with each of us and with each other. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a 200-hour yoga teacher certification, and you spend a lot of time learning about how to teach it, but you spend, I think, the majority of the time doing a lot of like self-reflecting and just kind of learning. And one of the things that I've found is like when the ego comes into play and how that can deter you from actually like truly listening to what is important, because it tries to, I think, distract you from things. But then beyond that, I think that, the other point is that, and I've brought this up other times, is like the division of things. It's like you can't do both. And I remember one of the first books that I read was Waking Jewels by Julie Clapp. And I grew up Catholic, and it was one of those things that like some of this stuff was very like, and you were talking about, your first husband's family.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, nope, don't go there. And I read that book, and she talked about how she had been a medium and speaking, and she went to her priest because she also grew up Catholic. And he was like, just don't do it on Sundays. Like, reserve that as the day that you have, that's your connection with you and what you believe in. And then on the other days, tune in and whatever is there, that's something that's been a blessing to you. So I think that part of it is that we look to like, oh, we've got to separate things, or you can't believe in both, or you have to choose one or the other. And like, the more time that I've spent on earth having this, existence, I'm like, I'm not convinced that it's not all the same thing.
I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Leo.
So so Connie, you wrote a book, Shift Your Energy. Can you tell us about the story that brought you to the point where you knew you needed to write it, and what do you want the readers to take from it?
Yeah. So I did. So the Shift Your Energy, Change Your Life is really about, the main thing is what we were just talking about. So thank you, Leo. It's really about shifting that energy within us to create what we want in our life. The energy the control is within us. And we do have that ability, but when people keep getting pummeled with life, it's hard to really believe that. It's hard to dig deep and have that total trust and faith, even if you've lost everything. I've had to start over probably 3 times in my life, and starting over, I'm realizing more and more as I have to, downsize or do different things in my life that I don't need most of the stuff that I have. And so I think the huge motivator was, as I'm doing readings, I kept going over in my readings, explaining different techniques of how to shift the energy. One in particular of why I wrote that book is because I really wanted to help people heal with I mean, I'm going to say the word forgiveness, but I know that that's like a buzzword. And yet it's so necessary, because the resentment that we hold within us is what's most of the time pulling in these experiences, because your psyche naturally wants it to heal, wants you to heal. So it's pulling in these experiences to mirror that what you feel inside, so your body, so you can heal, whether it's physical, emotional, anything. I believe anything physical is always emotional. It's always something that, whether we've carried it from a past life, or when we were in the womb, or in this lifetime, there's trauma that gets stored in your body, or the good and the bad. It gets stored everywhere in your body. Lower back, to me, anytime anybody has lower back issues, that's immediately, to me, a sign of they feel a lack of support, and usually with money. And depending on what side it's on, left or right, left is female, right is male. left is past, right is present. So it's really diving deep into what's going on. If somebody has lung or heart, usually, especially lung, that's mom or family. Shoulder is feeling like they're responsible for everybody, or their arms giving and receiving love. So to me, there's each body part corresponds with an emotional component to it. And yes, physical therapy is great and will heal. And I also feel too, what happens is if we don't heal the root, let's say cancer, cut the cancer out, but if we still keep holding on and this thing is still eating at us, it may come back because we haven't healed the root of really what's going on with this person. So I wanted to develop a technique. In my experience, I'm very close, we'll say, with the character in there, my client, Angela, very close. And some names may or may not have been changed to protect, some people involved. But at the same time, this client, she was going through a divorce, and her ex tried to turn the kids against her. And for many years. And let's just say that Angela's me. I think you guys probably figured that out by now, but it was me. So during this time, I knew I had to shift my energy, because if I kept adding to it, not only would energy and motion stays in motion, it wouldn't help to heal it wouldn't help to heal what was going on. And it's interesting because looking back now, everything was a life lesson for him, for me, for the kids. Our kids sign up with us as parents to be able to learn their life lessons too. So there are no mistakes. If we learn, as long as we learn from it, right? Because that's what we're here to do. So during this time, I had to develop a technique that I feel would help to shift this energy, because I knew I couldn't control his energy or their energy, but I could control my energy. So I knew a few things about energy, since that was my lifelong study, was energy. And I knew I had to get it out of my body. You don't want to suppress anger. Anger is actually a healthy emotion, because you're human. You're going to experience it. And those who feel like, oh, I shouldn't be angry because I'm a spiritual person, what happens is that gets suppressed and stored. Whether you're spiritual or not, I feel, unless you literally are Jesus or Buddha sitting underneath a tree, or really have that energy, we're all going to experience it. So we need to be able to find a healthy way to express it. I'm going to wait till Julia gets back on. There she is. Yeah. Find a healthier way to, express that. And in order to do that, I knew I had to get it out of my body. So I developed a technique that takes about a minute before I went to bed. And I would get the emotion out of the body. I didn't go to every single space of what happened, because I didn't feel that was necessary. It was more just getting that negative emotion out of my body. And I would just say what I was upset about, angry, hurt, any of those emotions. I'm really upset that it's hurting the girls, and you can't see what you're doing to the girls. And because that's what was getting stored in my body, that was the anger that I was feeling. The next step, I would shine a beautiful white light, because energy, the white color is vibrational healing. It has a frequency, and white encompasses all the colors in the rainbow. So all of your chakras, but it increases your vibe, protects your energy field. It also exposes the shadows that are keeping you stuck. The third thing is I would thank him, because he's my biggest teacher right now. He's my biggest teacher to learn patience, to learn how to trust that it's all going to be okay. He was my biggest teacher in so many ways, to not fear. I wasn't a victim. I realized I could have stuck up for myself at any point in that relationship, but I ran off of fear. That was my lesson to learn. So he was trying to show me that, and I just didn't take it. I didn't take that crossroads to be able to shift and change. So I had to look at myself about that. I'm like, oh, well, maybe that's on me. That part's on me. And so there were different things that I really looked at of how I saw that he was there to teach me something. It shifted my energy. Not all the time. Trust me. Like I said, there would be times that I would still get angry. The next step is I would send him love, because I knew whatever energy I was giving off, it's like a boomerang. I would get it right back. So eventually what happens when you do this every day, your energy field gets so big And then I would call in Saint Germain and the Violet Flame, because Saint Germain and the Violet Flame transmutes negativity, transcends time and space, heals karmic binds. It does so much. So I would send Saint Germain and the Violet Flame to me, to the kids, to him, to our whole family. And after that, I said, let the truth be revealed. I expect a miracle. And then since I was working with all this energy, I imagined what I wanted. And really what I realized was I just wanted us all to be happy. So I didn't necessarily try to figure out like how, when, why, what, because that's, I feel, is what may block, because now I'm trying to control the outcome. So I just let it go. I would just say, I just imagined us three holding hands and we were all really happy. So 4 years later, and I never said a word, no matter what he said about me, when the girls would say stuff, I would say, your only job is to love us both. I'm really sorry that was said. And I would leave it at that. Well, they would get more angry because they're like, it was interesting cycle. I had to walk away because I would get so mad, but then I had to do, I'm a karate girl. So I would kick the bag outside or do something, right? To go for a run, leave it on the pavement, whatever I had to do to process this and get it out of my body too. And it paid off though. It did work. Like 4 years later, he told the girls the truth, everything. I didn't have to say a word. And so I got my miracle. And he even said, he told him, yeah, she's the best person I've ever known. And she's an earth angel. And I really feel it's because I shifted my energy. I did the work myself. I didn't rely on something else to happen or somebody else to try to save me. I knew that if I could shift my energy, but what really shifted it is when I really learned the lesson. And when I realized that I didn't have any control of what might happen and I let go of the outcome, and I started thinking, well, maybe I'm supposed to go around the world and preach spirituality. Maybe that's where I'm supposed to be. And my biggest fear was they would never know the truth and I wouldn't be able to see them get married, because I had a friend where that happened to. So what was the seed that was planted in me is alienation from my kids, that I wouldn't either see them get married or be involved with the grandkids or something like that. So I realized then, the universe really got me where they knew I had to dig deep to trust, because it's probably one of the only, I don't want to say one of the only things that I feared, but I could I wasn't worried about manifesting money. That came easily for some reason. But when it came to my kids, they were my fear. That was my fear. So they really got me on that one. I'm like, that was a good one, universe. That was a really good one. And so once I really, and it literally shifted overnight, when it was almost like something went like this and then clicked and locked into place. When I felt it, when I felt completely fine with whatever happens, I'm okay with. Everything happened and shifted overnight. And it's because I learned my life lesson. It was my lesson to learn. So nothing happened to me. This was really for me. And how that catapulted my spiritual growth. Are there still times when I might go like to fear? Yep, sure does. But I'm able to get out of it quickly. Like I don't stay in that space, because I know that I'm creating. And I also know if I don't process it, that energy will stay with me. So that's why I wrote the book, because I felt so many people needed to understand and have some tools that can help them, that in a 1 hour session, I can't get all of that in. So I noticed I was referring to all these books, or I was doing extending past my time, because I wanted people to really have some tools. So now I say here, I have all of this in my book, not all of it, but most of it. So that is the reason why I wrote the book, is to try to help and get the word out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I liked your line about, what was it? I kick butt physically and energetically.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, that came out of the events when I started doing the events, when they were announcing me. Yeah, that they started saying that. So yeah, so thank you. Yeah, and really that's what it's about. It's if you think of what martial arts is, right? Martial arts gives you the confidence. It gives you the physical, and it also gives you the mental, as well as yoga. I'm with you, Julia. Yoga, I took yoga teacher training too, and I learned so much from there. And it was based off the Buddhist principles too. So there was a lot of deep dives of going inside. And I've been doing this my whole life. So I was like, oh, this will be, easy. Wow. Peeling back that onion there, I felt so much that that helped tremendously just by taking that yoga teacher training. So it all builds
Yeah.
on each other.
And I think that, for martial arts and yoga, I mean, there's other things as well, but I think that part of it is that it just keeps you very present.
Yes.
And I think that that's the biggest thing. I mean, the other night, my oldest has a lot of anxiety, and he's had some stuff going on, and he's anxious, and he's laying in bed, and he's like, I don't think I can sleep. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to fall asleep. And I was like, okay, well, let's think about it. I was like, are you worried about something at all? And he's like, I don't know. I said, well, can you do anything about what's going to happen tomorrow? He said, no. I said, can you do anything about what happened earlier today? He said, no. I said, okay, so we want to try to focus on right now, but that can be really hard to do, right? He's like, ugh. So I said, listen, our dog was in the bed with him. And I said, I want you to pet her. Just feel how soft she is. Feel how soft her ears are compared to her back, compared to her tail. Just keep petting her and do that 50 times. And just keep petting her 50 times. Just keep petting her. And he's like, okay. And so then he's just petting the dog. And I'm like, there's no way he's going to pet the dog 50 times and not fall asleep. And if he doesn't, then we'll figure out something else. But I do think that a large part of it is that we're so distracted by what happened or what's going to happen that when you actually just think about like what's currently going on, it is a lot less overwhelming. And your point of like sending love, like what you send out is what you receive. There's something called a meta meditation where you send love to yourself, you send love to someone you send love to someone you don't know very well, and then you send love to somebody that you really just don't like or don't get along with. And I love that. And every time I actually step back and do that, it's like, wow, that actually kind of works. So like your point of like what you're putting out and that energy that you're showing up with, I think that if we were all showing up with a little bit more loving energy, we'd be in a very different world, number one. But number two, I think that we'd start seeing and noticing different things about ourselves, and that maybe it would pull away some of those distractions. But I can relate to so much of what you are sharing. I cannot wait to read your book because I know there are multiple moments in my life that I could have definitely benefited from that. But I think that it's, those are the things that I love to hear about. And it's like your story and like what you've shared. It's like, I think we probably have a similarity is I share some personal things with people, and it's because I care and I want them to maybe take a little tidbit of something that I shared and take that and bring that into what they're doing or share that with someone they know. Like that's one of the reasons why like I love doing this is because we get to hear from wonderful people about different experiences and different techniques. And just I think that the more we have tools in our toolbox or whatever it is, that's just going to help us to maybe find that path that we're intended to be on and allow our soul to connect as deeply as it's trying to.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Leo?
So, Connie, before we wrap up, what is some advice you'd like to share with the listeners as we just kind of work our way through this complicated journey of life?
The biggest advice is to not take anything personal. This isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And to really, and I'm getting chills even as I speak about this, it's so interesting. And if you take yourself out of that energy, as opposed to this just keeps happening and things happening and things happening. If you're focusing on what keeps happening, you'll get more of what's happening. When I get a bill I didn't expect, now I say, I look forward to the unexpected ways it shows up. It took me a while to do that, but if I focus on my bill, I'm going to get more of the bills. So it's really being present. Like you said, Julia, that was beautiful what you said, and about the love, because if you're present in the moment, if we're worried about the future that may not happen tomorrow, and yet we're living in the past, that's depression, and in the future creates anxiety. So with those two, if I'm not in the present moment, I'm totally missing out on the joy that I could be experiencing right there. And if at that point in your life, if there's something that's going on where it's not joyful, or if it's chaotic, it's really turning inward and being present with that, and trying to see if there's some pattern or some loop, or going back. Like the biggest thing I did, this is an example, I kept attracting this whole week. It was one whole week. It was crazy. I wrote about this in the book too. And this just is an example of how, when whatever you're feeling that you don't even realize is going to mirror what you feel. So this one whole week in particular, there were 5 circumstances where I got hit on by a married man. They were all married, every single one. Not one was single. And the one was so crazy. I was driving down the freeway and he was telling me to pull over, and I was on the phone with my friend Nancy, and I'm like, this guy's telling me to pull over. She's like, well, he's cute. And I said, yeah. She's like, well, pull over, because maybe you need a date or whatever. I made sure it was safe and a open parking lot. But first words out of his mouth were, are you married? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, wait a minute, are you? He's like, yeah, I've never done this before. I literally said in front of him, universe, this is not funny. You know what, guys? Not funny at all. And I started like literally, because I knew I was like so frustrated. He looked at me like I was totally insane. Totally get it. I did look like I was insane. He's like, I got to go to work. I'm like, yes, you do. Because I'm having a moment with my guides. And I'm like, what is going on here? But I had to look inward. Why is this happening? I said, so I looked at my pattern. So if people look at their patterns, what was my pattern? Untrustworthy men, people who I couldn't trust. They were all male. So then I had to look back like, okay, in the last 5 years, who was untrustworthy, who was a male? Yep, that person. I had an ex-brother-in-law who did a number on me. Professional con artist. Yeah. Then I had, going back to my uncle was a huge philanderer growing up, and that was all he did. So what was the seed that was planted in me? No offense, Leo, right? But I've shifted that. But men can't be trusted. So what the universe was doing me a favor. The universe was showing me what needed to be healed. It literally was trying to put up a mirror. I mean, sometimes you have to hit me over the head. All right. I'm just going to, they're like, they just have to hit me over the head to be able to get me to see it. Because I didn't get it the first 4 times that came around. But after that last time, that was so kind of crazy. I said, there is something to this. So let me take a look, because I'm pulling it in for a reason. So I would say the biggest thing is, if you don't like what's going on in your life, take a look at what's going on around you. Take a look at those patterns. Go back and look. And also, I want to talk about empaths for a second, if you don't mind, Julia, real quickly, because you were talking about your son having anxiety. And I'm going to guess that he feels a lot and he's an empath. Does he feel a lot? Like, is he kind of like, is he sensitive to energies? Can she hear me? Okay. So yeah. So anyway, if you're an empath and you're sensitive to energies, basically what will happen is it will create this feeling of anxiety a lot. And sometimes it may not even be the person. It can actually be more about what is going on with the energies around them. So as an empath, the first thing I do is tell people, protect your energy field. And especially with kids, because kids now are so empathic, but that can create a feeling of anxiousness or anxiety. And a lot of kids now, kids are born naturally intuitive anyway. That's the first thing I say when people say, you shouldn't do this stuff. I said, well, it's against what God would do. I said, really? Because God created kids and kids are born telepathic. How many kids have imaginary friends? How many kids have all of these gifts that they can see spirit, they can see loved ones on the other side. And to me, that's a gift from God. I feel it is anyway. And so learning how to teach these kids how to work with it, because they're becoming more and more telepathic and more natural mediums, and to really develop that gift, but also to let them know to protect their energy field. The easiest for me is Archangel Michael or the Blue Flaming Cross, putting themselves in a beautiful white and gold bubble of light. Only the highest and purest are allowed in that space. Anything else is outside of their space, whether it's within them or their room or their house. And to be able to disconnect from energies too, and just taking your hand, going like this and having the intention, disconnect, right? And so I feel like too, helping kids with those empaths who maybe feeling like, I have so many clients are like, oh my gosh, it's hard for my child to fall asleep because they're seeing loved ones on the other side or feeling energies and doing it that way. I get certified in spiritual clearings because I didn't realize how many negative energies are out there, and they're not to be feared. It's just to be aware of it. So being aware of how does your house feel, and if it doesn't feel right, it might be time for a clearing. There is a great book by Diana Burney called Spiritual Clearings, where you can clear yourself and you can clear your house. And it wasn't until her that I realized that there's this thing called an interdimensional that kind of goes in and out. And the moment you go to do a clearing, it will actually leave and go to a different dimension until it feels safe. Because I couldn't figure out why I was not clearing whatever it was in my house when I moved into my house. My mom taught me clearings. I've been clearing ever since I've been young, but I couldn't clear this one thing. And she kept telling me, she kept bringing up dimensions. I didn't understand what she was talking about until I took her course and realized there's this thing called an interdimensional, and they're really a really low vibration, but they can't live in a space of love. And if there's like depression or different things going on and illnesses, that can attract it, because like attracts like, right? So they'll pull in all kinds of frequencies. High vibrating people attract frequencies, all kinds of frequencies, because they're attracted by the light. So knowing how to protect that energy field, especially with empaths, is very helpful. I felt, and again, that would be to me something I would, if they can teach our kids how to do that, would be phenomenal. Just those little quick steps to help protect them from those negative energies.
Connie, you should have a chat with Leo at some point about his Iron Man suit.
I love Iron Man. So you're going to tell me.
It's it's something that we'll have to chat about for sure, but I think you'll love it.
Yes.
We will definitely do that, Connie, sometime. Yeah.
Yeah. But,
so
I was going to say,
Connie, thank you for this amazing conversation tonight.
Thank you.
How do you want people to reach you if they want to work with you?
They can reach me by email, conniewarrioroflight@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, Connie Warrior of Light. There are a lot of imposters out there, so just be aware of that. But mine has over 4,000 followers, so that's how you kind of know it's legit, because some will only have like 10 or 20 or 100. Okay. Instagram is the same, and YouTube is the same, Connie Warrior of Light. And then that would probably be the easiest way to be able to reach out or to experience something, if you will.
And we'll put all that in the show notes for people too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I love the energy, and I do want to hear about this Iron Man suit. So
we will definitely have that conversation. So guys, thanks for tuning in, and this will be up. Just don't forget to like and subscribe and follow and share. Thank you, Julia. And we'll see you next time. Okay. Bye.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Mystery of the Soul. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you have a question, topic suggestion, or just want to say hi, we'd love to hear from you. You can visit our website at mysteryofthesoul.com. Reach us on Instagram, email us at mysteryofthesoulpodcast@gmail.com, and if you're interested in booking a session with Leo, visit his website at leojmccarthy.com.